Mood 616 sucks fucking dick. What a fucking asshole, man. I met him at Wasteland. Fucking dickhead. Goddamn. Fuck him, man. Fuck.
A tisket, a tasket, a bloody, bloody basket. Cut his head and ate his leg. Now he's in a casket.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another random horror review. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for dropping in, guys. Alrighty, so this is going to be a brand new horror film review. This is going to be episode 2. Once again, this is coming straight from Wild Eye Releasings. This film came out, I think, originally in 2012. It got recently released on DVD this year in 2014. And it is called Scream Park. This one right here is starring, well, it's got a brief cameo by Doug Bradley, of course, of Hellraiser fame. And it also has Navek Ogre in this too. He's the founding member of the band Skinny Puppy, a Canadian kind of industrial rock kind of metal. I don't really know how to describe what they are, but he's very well known in Canada. But yeah, so anyways, getting into the plot of Scream Park. This one basically centers around the employees of this amusement park called Frightland. They have gathered together after work by their boss to hold a meeting, because basically what's happening is the park is shutting down, and he's just giving them a lecture and on what they need to do after the park closes down and things that they need to receive, like their T4s and all that type of stuff. And anyways, they get this bright idea that, since the park is already closing down, they might as well throw a party inside the park. And of course, the boss is hesitant at first. He's like, fuck it, whatever. It's already closing down. What do I got to lose, kind of deal. But what they don't know is that the owner of the park, played by Doug Bradley, I think his name is actually Mr. Hyde or something like that. Yeah, Mr. Hyde. He's actually conjured up a pretty sick plan to keep the park awake. He doesn't actually want the park to close down. So he comes up with this idea that if he hires a couple, redneck hillbillies to go in there and kill off everybody that's in the amusement park, it'll raise, basically, it'll go media crazy. And that'll be enough to sell anything having to do with the park, and it'll keep it open. So he's got this really kind of sick and twisted idea that, once the media gets a hold of these murders and stuff, and that'll be enough to keep the park open. So, of course, so they, after hours, the park closes. They start, having their party and stuff. And, of course, everybody starts getting picked off one by one by these two killers and stuff. So that is the plot of the film. Now, my thoughts on this one. Now, I thought it was interesting. I was reading up on this film a little bit before I watched it, and I learned that this movie was completely funded by a Kickstarter program. Apparently, they raised $40,000 to film this film. Now, I'm actually a little bit confused on what happened to the $40,000 in this movie. I think there's a lot of missed opportunities in this film because, obviously this movie takes place in an amusement park called Frightland. There's not really a lot of shots and scenery of the amusement park, which is so... It's kind of shitty, actually, because that would have been really cool to see. Being Frightland, it's kind of based on, kind of horror themes and stuff. And there isn't really a lot of that shown in the film, which is kind of a downer. As for the characters in this film, most of the characters are pretty generic, and actually, the acting's pretty bad also too. But the characters, some of them are, of course, cliched. You got like a punk kind of, metal guy in the film. You got a couple dorky guys, a couple techie guys. They kind of range, and you got your slut girl. You got all the characters are very kind of cliche. Then you got your lead, Jennifer. She's very normal, of course, and she actually does a pretty good job in this film. Besides her, I think that she can hold down the lead pretty well, in my opinion. Besides her, there's really nobody else in this film that can act that well, and it's kind of a shame because, which leads me into my next point. Now, there's some scenes in this film that are very, very kind of awkward to me. Now, there's a scene where a girl, this red-haired girl, is getting attacked by one of the killers, and he knocks her cell phone out of her hand, and then knocks her down, and she's really not saying anything. And so she starts crawling towards the cell phone here, and one of the killers, you know, basically stomps right on her hand. Now, she doesn't even let out the littlest of a peep. Nothing. I just thought that was so bizarre that she doesn't even say a fucking word. I mean, if I had somebody stomp on my hand with a big pair of black boots, I would probably fucking yell out a scream or something like that. Not even a fucking word comes out of her mouth. Like, there's no emotion in a lot of the kills in this film. It's really kind of awkward. There's another one where this girl's getting pulled by her feet. She's on her stomach and she's getting pulled backwards by her feet. And she's basically clawing at the ground and she's not saying anything. I'm like, okay. I was very, very confused by that. Yeah, so the emotion in the kills and stuff, not really the greatest. I mean, that goes along with the kind of poor acting and stuff. Now, the kills themselves in the film, I gotta say, are pretty tame. There's a couple scenes with some pretty decent gore. I will give them credit, though. Everything is practical effects in this film, which is nice to see. I will give them that. So that was pretty cool. The score in the film's not really overly that great either. I was kind of disappointed with it. Like, it's kind of very shrieky in points. You know, when something's about to happen, you know, it kind of shrieks in there and stuff, and it's, you know, it's supposed to be kind of like an 80s throwback horror film. It's not set in the 80s or anything, but it's, you know, in that style, in that vein of, like, you know, 80s horror films and stuff. But I think that they could utilize a score a lot fucking better in this film, man. You know, it was kind of downer. You know, there is times where there is a little bit of cool atmosphere and stuff, but it comes and goes so quick in this film too, which is such a disappointment. And that's leading back to my very first point about, you know, the missed opportunity about the, you know, this film being set in an amusement park. You know, generally, if you're going to set it in an amusement park like this, you know, you could create some pretty awesome atmosphere. Very, very missed in this. Now, I will give them a lot of credit, though, for having two killers. It's not very often that you see two killers that are going around, you know, simultaneously, and they're hacking up people left and right. I think that's a pretty cool idea, actually. It's not done very often, but, you know. But I think the biggest problem with this movie overall is that it's not really that original. Besides, you know, like I said, having the two killers isn't even that original either, but it's different. It hasn't been overly used in slasher films and stuff. But yeah, there's just a lot of missed opportunities in this movie. I think the ending's pretty predictable, to be honest. You kind of figure out things throughout the film, and it's pretty obvious. I mean, at least it was to me, anyways. I don't know, man. I don't really know what else to say about the movie. I mean, like I said, there was some pretty good points. Like, I do like the fact that, you know, they actually really did try to make a decent horror film. This movie wasn't intended to be bad. It's not a horror comedy at all. It takes itself a little too serious, I think, at times, because there's, like, absolutely no moments in this film where I did laugh or anything, except for when it was probably unintentional. But you know what? Another plus was the main actress, Jennifer. I thought she did a pretty good job. Now, I noticed one really random thing in this movie too, that every single shot that she's in, the director, Cary Hill, I don't know if this was done intentionally, but there's a lot of focus on her ass in this film. Almost every scene that she got her back to the camera, like there's close-ups of her ass. She's climbing up, you know, ladders and whatnot of her ass. And there's actually a scene when I was thinking to myself about 3/4 of the way through the film, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of ass shots in this film. No fucking shit. The killer actually says to her after he kind of captures her towards the end of the film, one of the killers, she's walking in front of him and he goes, wow, you have a really nice ass. And I actually fucking bursted out laughing pretty hard on that. I just thought that was so weird that I was just thinking that. But yeah, you know, overall, man, it's not a terrible, terrible movie. There's just a lot of missed opportunity in this one, I think. And I mean, you know, with a $40,000 budget, that, you know, for especially with the the type of films that I do watch a lot, have a lot lower budgets than $40,000, and have done pretty well for themselves. And like I said, not using the amusement park in the way it probably could have been used was a big mistake, I think. And also, I didn't actually mention about the the character build or the character development in this film. There's really no character development at all on any of the characters. You don't really get to know them, so you don't really care for them when they die. And that's another cliche thing about the slasher films. When you don't care about the characters, it's a big downer. So, but this review sounded really, really negative, but it's not overly the worst thing I've ever seen in the world, but it's not the best thing either. If you're a hardcore slasher fan, I would definitely say, give it a watch. You might like it a little more than I did, or just see something else in there that I didn't point out. But, if I had to rate it, I'd probably just give it maybe a 4.5, maybe to 5 out of 10. Like I said, I'm going to give them mad props for the practical effects and really trying to make a decent horror film. They didn't try to fucking do something stupid, but the lack of missed opportunity and the characters and stuff, and there actually is some pretty bad dialogue in the film too, which is pretty funny, but along with some pretty decent stuff too. So, but yeah, sorry, kind of got all over the place towards the end of this review, but Scream Park, released by Wild Eye Releasing. Check it out if you want to. I think it's decent, but it's, feels a little generic at times, so expect that. Yeah. It's too bad that Doug Bradley's not in the film longer, though. It's kind of another missed opportunity, I think, too, but, it is what it is. So, Scream Park from 2012, pretty much a brand new release from Wild Eye Releasing, so check it out if you want. And that's going to do it for episode 2 here on the Random Horror Reviews. So I will see you guys whenever I decide to post the 3rd episode. So anyways, guys, I will talk to you later. Peace out.